I know you haven't asked the question yet, but I feel like the question about the gloves is probably coming. So I may as well just say,
it's definitely, it crossed my mind as I was preparing for this episode, where I was thinking, do we go to the gloves? Do we talk about the gloves? Is that something? Because I know.
Did you have it in your list of questions, or did you leave it out?
I generally, it's rare that I have a list of questions anymore. So as a peek at like what my prep is like, I do a lot of prep, but I don't go into the episode with any list because I would really love it to be as organic as possible. The most recent exception I made was the hot sauce episode with Jake Studs that we did as a special episode a couple weeks ago. That one, I needed a list, as I told him. I wasn't sure if my brain would be able to come up with them as easily as my mouth is on fire. With that exception, I don't have much of a list, which means I did think about what I always, think about it beforehand. But one of the things was, I was like, do I do the glove? Do we go to the gloves? Is that something he wants to even bring up? Because I've been in enough of your streams to hear you acknowledge it. And I've seen the command for the gloves, which always cracks me up. I was like, we'll feel it out. We'll see how it goes. That was where I landed on it. I was like, we'll see where we end up.
I think enough people now know the real reasoning behind the gloves and stuff. I think at this point, it's just become almost its own meme and its own part of the brand. I think like they're not necessary at all, but when I first started, they were necessary. I think now they've just turned into their own kind of mythical beast almost. So I just kind of throw them on instinct, and that's that.
I love it. I definitely think that it is, when I think of your channel and your community, I definitely still think about the gloves from time to time. I crack up when the command is used. For better or for worse, it is a part of your lore, of your whole story.
Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. I think you're great and gracious for still even embracing it, honestly. So I love it. I appreciate that.
It's all part of the fun, and that's what you stream for. At least it's what I stream for. If you're not having fun with it, why are you doing it? If me putting on a pair of gloves gets a single laugh, a single smile, even a single person sort of shaking their head going, what's this guy doing? Any sort of engagement, I think it's worth it. It's not like it's hard for me to throw gloves on and have a bit of fun, so
absolutely
keeps it nice and easy, I think.
Do you want to start with the glove question? Do you want to dive right in there?
Let's do it. May as well. I feel like we already sort of have dived into it there. So
yeah, we already have. All right. So build time. You can be seen wearing gloves. You're wearing gloves right now, which I think is a nice touch. Tell us about the gloves, because I know this is something that has is a recurring thing on your stream. People ask about it. You have a command for it. So let's talk about the gloves on your stream.
To talk about the gloves, we actually have to talk about what I was doing before I started streaming. And so I was actually working in a mechanic workshop. I'm not a qualified mechanic, but I fabricate, I do general duties, that sort of stuff. And as a result, I used to come home from work and your hands would be all banged up. You'd have cuts and bruises, and you'd have oil, stuck in your fingernails. And it got to the point where you scrub and scrub and scrub, and anyone who works on cars knows you can never quite get it fully clean and stuff like that. And so I thought, what's an easy way? When you're building Lego, your hands are inevitably on screen. And so I thought, what's an easy way to kind of cover this up? And I thought, well, I've got boxes and boxes of these black gloves at work. I'm just going to pinch a box, take them home with me, and put some gloves on. it started off as a necessity. And then when people started initially asking about it, I'm like, well, maybe I can put a humorous spin on this. And that's when the command was born. So I actually workshopped it in chat really early on. I said, hey, what does everyone think would be some funny reasons why I could be wearing these gloves? And, all sorts of things came up. You've seen the command, but like one of my favorites is to hide a Mega Bloks tattoo and things like that, or to hide my identity as a famous hand model. I put them into the command and it randomly pulls an explanation from this pool of like 20 different things. And, I like to think they're pretty funny, and it's just evolved into just part of the BuildTime brand,
I think that's incredible. It shows me that you have a great sense of humor about something that can easily be one of those questions that you got a ton, I'm sure, early on, particularly before the command, I'm sure. I definitely was one of those viewers who wandered into your stream at some point and saw the gloves. And I kind of did the hand on the chin going, what's going on? I was like, I'm surely there's a good reason, but I didn't want to be the guy to ask. I didn't want to be, because being someone who streams myself, I know that if there's a question to be asked, that has probably been asked dozens of times before I got there. So I think I patiently waited for someone to say something. I think someone else in your chat, I think this was before the command. It was the joking around about what the reason was, even though the real reason wasn't given. And I think after about a couple minutes of the joking about it, you finally gave the reason. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. But I did watch very captivated by like, what's going on with the gloves? Is this, what's the...
See, I love that. I see, as the streamer, you don't often get that kind of background reaction. And so for every person asking that question, there's, maybe half a dozen others sitting there like yourself going, what's the go? So hearing that story from your perspective is actually hilarious. It kind of makes the joke worthwhile for me, at least. I like that.
I definitely had a couple theories in those few minutes before hearing the confirmation. I was like, does he not want to get anything on the bricks? Is he scared of germs? Is he that's
a really common one. The fingerprints on the bricks. A lot of people think it's that. I am very much a build and display guy, so I can see why people think that, but it's not for that. Literally, it's like the one thing it's not for, I think.
Valconitron in the chat there with is he allergic to Lego? Can I get an allergy to Lego?
I'm sure there are. People have like latex allergies and things like that. So kind of wouldn't surprise me though. You can be rest assured that I'm not allergic to Lego. Maybe I should add that to the list in the comments.
I think that's a great addition, to be completely honest with you.
For sure.
So let's talk about your stream. Let's talk about what people would expect from a typical BuildTime stream. What's it like coming into your channel?
That's an interesting one. So obviously I'm a Lego streamer primarily. More recently, I've been branching out into more things. So starting to do some Gunpla, toying with the idea of doing some more gaming. I did a little bit of gaming early on, but for the most part, I've been 100% Lego for probably a good 12 months at least. When you come in, I like to think that there's a nice welcoming vibe mixed with a pretty heavy-handed sprinkling of chaos. I like to say that I give chat the tools to have fun with, and then chat kind of dictates how a stream goes. I have a plan of what I want to do on a stream. I always, as someone who gets nervous and a bit anxious before streaming and stuff, one of the ways I deal with that is by making a plan. Chat then comes in and tries to derail that plan in the nicest way possible. And I think when you come in, you can expect some Lego to be built, a lot of Lego to be unbuilt, and hopefully some laughs and some fun. That's always my aim.
You mentioned the unbuilt part which for those unfamiliar, what happens, what instigates or triggers the unbuilding?
So there's a couple of things. Primarily, there's a channel point redeem. So I can't even remember. I think it's like 2,000 channel points. And every 20 minutes, I think it's 20 minutes, someone in chat can click that channel redeem, and I have to take away the last 3 steps. I've also got another one that I set up for bits that is not on a cooldown. And so sometimes when someone in chat's feeling really spicy, they can double stack them or triple stack them or even more. And so it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon for me to have 0 progress on a Lego set in a stream. And it's funny because when I first did it, I actually didn't realize how important it was. I'm sure you as a Lego creator understands Lego isn't cheap. Lego's expensive.
Yeah.
And when I first did the unbuilds, I didn't realize how actually beneficial it was to the longevity of my stream because it creates, longer length of content. I'm doing a single set for longer and longer. And as a result, I'm spending slightly less on Lego, and it allows the kind of streamer budget to go that little bit further. It's kind of a win-win. Chat has fun. They get to slow me down, slow me up, trip me up, have a joke at my expense or whatever, and I get a bit of extra content out of it and a little bit easier on the wallet. So I think it's a win-win-win.
Another brick and AFOL in chat says sometimes there's negative progress, which is
there is. I see. So, yeah. For example, I had my 400 follower celebration like the Thursday before last, and I was actually doing this Ahsoka brickhead right here.
Yeah,
I got about halfway through it, and then those bit redeems that I mentioned kicked in, and I actually went to -3 steps
of that
Ahsoka brickhead. So I had to pull out my my previous set, which was a Ferrari Speed Champ, and I took 3 steps off that one as well. Then it got to the point of rating out, and I'd literally gone backwards on a set, on a set. So and that has happened once or twice before as well. So that is definitely a thing. Definitely a thing.
How far back have you had to go in terms of like all the stacking that has occurred?
Yeah, so probably the worst one was when I had to take the arm off the Big Bowser set. So I can't even remember which one I was doing, but it's another one where I was doing a different set and got unbuilt so much that I had to go back to the Bowser set and pretty much undo an entire arm. So it was something like 40 steps or something ridiculous. So chat also is really good. It feels weird saying chat. It almost not dehumanizes, but kind of doesn't give the personality to all the amazing individuals in there. But hopefully everyone gets what I mean. When there's that 20-minute cooldown, chat is amazingly good at distracting me with other things. So I won't build anything for 20 minutes, and then they get to double stack the channel point anyway. So it doesn't matter what's going on. There's always some unbuilding happening and some fun happening,
That's impressive. I definitely remember it. I think it was in the moment where you had to like go to a previous set that I definitely was shocked at how much you would go back, or if you were willing to do that. I wasn't completely sure, because I remember thinking, oh, he's going to be completely like unbuilt the set he's on, and then you pulled another set onto screen to start unbuilding, and I was like, oh no, this is like it's legitimately even further. Like you will go back as far as you need to, and that is the part that completely surprised me about your unbuild, redeem, and the bits. It's incredible.
I have changed the rules slightly. So I used to start every stream with disassemble active and on. And so whenever I would have my intro, you have your 5-minute intro, your 10-minute intro, whatever, it would be active. And it was always, of course, the first thing that everyone would redeem. And so I'd have to start the stream going back 3 steps. And so I'd start every stream with going back 3 steps. And of course, when you're starting a new set, I think you have to have that balance too. And while I love the going back and the craziness, it's super fun. People also want to see sets built at the same time, so there has to be that little bit of balance. And so I started waiting till I've done a few steps until I turn that on, and I'll just sneakily, I've got it on a Stream Deck shortcut, and I'll just sneakily reach my hand across and click it at some point once I've started building. And I think since that's kind of balanced out things nicely. I'm not going back into previous sets all the time, and people are still getting to see good progress while having fun. I think that's just a bit of kind of maturing as a streamer and kind of working out what you want from your stream. I think there's an element of that. So it's always a work in progress,
Let's talk about how you got your start. What brought you into streaming, and how did you get into it?
My first exposure to Twitch was actually through Instagram. So, I've got a personal Instagram, and, what everyone does, you follow the things that you like on there. And one of my non-Lego hobbies is miniature painting. And so, of course, I've followed a heap of miniature people. And there was one particular dude who I just thought was really, really talented. And he was from Australia. And so I sent him a message and I said, hey, do you take commissions? And he says, yeah. And I said, well, I'd love for you to paint this particular miniature for me, because while I love doing it, I'm not particularly good at it. And so he's like, yeah, it'll cost this amount of money, blah, blah, blah. And I'll give you updates on Twitch. And I said, I don't know what that is. And so I jumped into Twitch and, found what it was. And I found myself just watching this guy paint this miniature for hours and hours a day. And it got to a point where I was, friendly with people in chat and really enjoying the interaction, that sort of stuff. And I just thought, I kind of want to get in on this. And this is quite a few years ago, mind you. This is probably 2016, maybe 17, something like that. And I just thought I could get in on this. I enjoy the interaction side of things. And so I came up with all these random ideas. I was like, I started seeing these, 24-hour animal streams and things like that. I'm like, maybe I could set up a camera in front of my fish tank or this, that, and the other. And it kind of fell by the wayside. And I tried a few different things and I could just never quite get the picture right, things like that. And so I never actually hit the go live on it. But it was sort of stuck in my head from that point. And then come like 2022, I actually won a prize pack from a company called Mighty Ape, who's in New Zealand, but who I buy a lot of Lego from. And so I won this prize pack of like 6 sets of Lego, and I thought, I've got all this Lego sitting here. Why don't I like try this streaming thing? And I thought I was really smart and original, and I was like, I bet no one does this. Who would stream Lego? I was like, I just thought it was the best idea ever. And I even jumped on Twitch. I even typed in Lego, and there was like 1 or 2 people doing it. It must have been like a really random time frame that I picked to do my research. And I was like, no one's doing this. I'm going to be a pioneer. This will be fantastic. And I'll have 1,000 followers in 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And so I made a new account, made the BuildTime account, and jumped on, started doing. I was streaming from my work laptop with, a dodgy, cheap camera, things like that. I slowly realized that there's actually this huge community behind this little Lego brick thing. I realized I probably wasn't as smart as I thought I was, but I'm really glad that I did it because, how great is this community, So yeah, that's how I got into it. It's probably not as exciting as some people's, but, you got to start somewhere, right?
To be completely fair, I think the stance of, no one's doing Lego on Twitch. Surely I'm one of the few has crossed the minds of many creators in the Twitch brick building community when they first started. So that I don't think there's anything wrong with that because there's not as much visibility for the community. So at first glance, it definitely does seem that way. So you are in in my opinion, vast majority of people.
Yeah, you're probably right there for sure.
What was that like getting started in this space that was fairly new and different and certainly not traditional Twitch? What was that like for you?
It was really interesting because, once I had gone live a couple of times, I really kind of got invested. When I first started, for the first few months, I was literally streaming to like 2 or 3 people at a time, and I was still having fun. So I was like, how can I improve my stream? As I said, I've got a background in automotive and cars and stuff. And as a result, I know a lot of people who are into photography and videography and that sort of stuff. So while I don't have any particular talent in that area, I can appreciate what looks good. And so I was like researching, like, how do you, cut the backgrounds out of your photos? How do you light your sets to look good and things like that? And for me, it's always really important to have that production quality. And so early on, I felt like I was streaming to very few people, but I was just hooked. And so I was just constantly finding ways to try and improve the stream and do better. And so I just kind of was in this kind of almost addicted state of, if I wasn't streaming, I was researching streaming and how to change it, how to fix it, how to improve and that sort of thing. And what kind of came to me as an epiphany later was that it's not about the tech, it's not about this, it's not about your picture. Like all that helps, don't get me wrong, but it's actually about the people and the community. And so after about 3 months, I started getting into more other streams. I found a guy called Red5 Lego, who's a Canadian streamer who, awesome dude, who I'm really glad to be able to call a friend. I started spending a lot of time in there, and through him, I found people like, Scotty Rotten, Prophet DNA, countless other people. I quickly realized that the community is the important part. Suddenly you have people like Prophet jumping into my stream with crazy raids, and then I'm an affiliate at 3 months in, and it just sort of took off from there, of course. It's been an interesting journey for sure.
That's incredible. Definitely, once you find the community, it certainly, I think, comes hard and fast in terms of the support and seeing all the new faces come into your chat. 3 months in, you got affiliated. How was that transition for you as you were starting to see more people enter your chat and come through and come back and return when you were still fairly early on in the streaming career?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was weird because, as I said, I was only streaming to a handful of people before that. For it to change so quickly, it was a bit bizarre. I got kind of hooked again, not so much researching streaming and tech and that sort of thing, but I got really into like commands and like toys for people to play with, I call them. I kind of used them as a bit of a crutch, to be honest, because at that point in time, I was still very much learning how to do this whole thing. And I don't know if everyone experiences this, but for me, the hardest part of streaming was always knowing what to talk about. And so what I mean by that is, like sometimes you'll be sitting there and you don't have anyone talking in chat. You have that dead air. And I think dead air it's an interesting one because there's times when you need a little bit of that, but there's also times when too much dead air can really almost kill a stream, kill the vibe, So for me, it was really about working on what do I talk about, and I refer back to, my plans that helped me get through, the nervousness and anxiety and stuff. And so what I like to do before a stream and what I started doing back then around that time when I got affiliated was that I just write some points down in a Word document, or now I use, Google Keep, the little sticky notes app or whatever. And I'll just write down just some talking points, and they literally can just be like 1 or 2 words. And, I'll be like simple stuff like, anyone watched any good movies lately, or anyone played a good game? What'd you do on the weekend? Things like that. So I'll just randomly come up with things like that. And so I think for me, that's the sort of thing that really helped me engage with people as those numbers came. I think that's helped me a lot.
In addition to the notes or prep that you do before a stream, what advice would you give someone who's struggling with finding things to talk about or discuss, or even just trying to deal with that dead air during their stream? What would you tell them?
I think there's a couple of schools of thought. For me, I like to just talk about what I'm doing with my hands. So you'll still, to this day, if I'm having a mental blank or can't think of anything to talk about, and there's a bit of quietness in the chat, I'm very lucky now that that's actually quite rare. I've got some incredible people who join every stream. There, there's always something to talk about. But I do find, if I've got my sorting tray on the table, I'll be like, okay, now I need to find a 1x2 plate or something like that. And so you almost start narrating what you're doing. And I think some people don't love that, but other people do appreciate it. So it's kind of that weird balance, I suppose. But for me, if I say something like that, I'm finding this brick and then we're going to put this brick over here onto this one, it feels that dead air enough and gives my brain enough of a break to think about the next thing. So you don't do that all the time, but sometimes when you need that stopgap, you can do just a little bit of narration and then get into your next kind of topic or whatever. That's what I do, at least.
You consider it just another tool in your toolbox full of things that you do while you're streaming, or, like you said, buying yourself a little more time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. And it sounds like you have that. You have the redeems, which can be ridiculous or even a little crazy.
Plenty of redeems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's funny because streaming is almost like an iceberg. And I don't know, we haven't spoken about this, so I don't know if this is true for you, but for me, for every hour I spend live, I'm probably spending 2 to 3 hours offline doing prep. And what I mean by prep, it could be making a new clip. It could be doing some of those plans I was talking about, doing social media posts, even just chatting with people in Discord, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. There's so many things that you're doing around the actual content. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. But that's the game, right?
That's very true for me too. When I spend time working on the stream, I would say the ratio is maybe for every hour's worth of stream, I definitely spend 1 to 2 hours off stream doing something for it. Crossing the stream specifically, there's just a lot of that prep, either looking at the guests' content or doing all the administrative stuff that you would expect, scheduling, getting people prepared for the episode, editing, etc. So there's definitely a lot of off-screen work that happens, and I think iceberg is a good way to describe it, because you only see part of the thing, and there's so much more to it under the surface of the water there. So it's definitely a really good comparison, and I certainly think that is quite applicable here. Certainly. What kind of other things do you do to prep? So it sounds like I as a quick refresher, it sounds like the redeem prep, having a list of things to possibly touch on as far as talking points. What other kind of things do you do to get ready for your content and your streams?
Yeah, so I was for a while also doing YouTube stuff. So a lot of that prep that I was talking about, which I'm kind of not doing at the moment, was like video editing, stuff like that. yeah, they're mainly the things that I do between a stream. And then we spoke briefly in the backstage area about rituals before stream, and it's different to prep. It's more of a getting in the right mindset type thing. Yeah. But I shared with you what my rituals were. And for me, I like to put on some music and sing and dance around a bit. And I like to have a nice hot shower as a bit of a stress reliever beforehand. So I don't want to put that image in anyone's head.
It's too late, man. But, it's already in my head and I don't know what to do.
That is the reality. That is the reality. And yeah, I apologize for everyone's scarred mental images of that. But yeah, it's just something I do. And it helps keep me sane, helps keep the stress levels down, the anxiety down. And I find I get out of the shower, I dry my hair, and then I can sit down relatively stress-free. There's always still a small element of that, and get into it,
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about those pre-stream rituals to get yourself ready. And having spoken to so many creators about this, not everyone has a ritual, or some people have different ones where they just kind of take a couple minutes and they just check all their stuff, and that's really the end of it. For me, as I told you earlier, I just take a couple minutes and I just try to clear my head and kind of get in the mindset of like, we're going to stream and engage people. So I think it's really cool that you even go that whole, like, there is quite the ritual there, right? You're gonna listen to music, you're gonna dance around, but then you're gonna also take a nice shower and get relaxed. I love that. I think that is something creators who are getting ready to do their content for whatever that looks like, whether it's a stream or record a video. I think the mindset component is actually quite important, and for some it's really easy to just turn that on and get ready to do it. Up for some of us it takes more than that. So thanks for sharing that, and now all of you out there can live with that image in your brain.
As Korg just said, he'll never be able to look at me the same again, So I do apologize, everyone.
Just know anytime before build time is live, just think about what he's doing just beforehand.
That happened.
That happened.
Yeah.
I invite all of you who do the same sort of thing as us, as far as creation goes, to think about what your pre-recording or pre-stream ritual might be, and if it can benefit from singing and dancing in the shower. Who knows?
You never know. It might be a good tool in your quiver,
Absolutely. We did have a Lego related question in the chat from Fireheart, asking what has been your favorite thing to build on stream?
There's so many that I've done now, and they've all been super fun. But I think the one that really stood out to me is the Jurassic Park, the T-Rex breakout, the diorama one. I'm a fan of Jurassic Park. I'm not a super lore, I guess, nerd, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. But there's certain people who just know all the lore backwards, know the movies backwards. I love them, but I certainly don't have the in-depth knowledge of some of the amazing people around here. But I just found myself going back to being a kid when I was building that set. And I know Led in the chat built that recently as well. And watching him build it, I recognized in him what was happening to me when I was building it, because, you'd pull it out and there'd be the binoculars or the cup with the water inside on the dashboard of the Jeep and things like that. Or not the Jeep, the Ford Explorer. But just all these little kind of Easter eggs and stuff in this set. And I just found myself really excited, like a kid, just going, holy shit, they added this, or, and it was super cool. So that one, in terms of pure Lego builds, that would definitely be one of the highlights of things that I've done on stream. But to be honest with you, a lot of my more general stream highlights have been almost completely unrelated to Lego, which is interesting enough.
Mm.
What I mean by that is, if you were to say, what is your favorite thing that's happened on stream? Very few of them actually involve building the Lego. The Lego is almost become a tool to engage with the community. And all of those best moments have been around the people and the community, not so much the Lego itself. But I hope I'm explaining that correctly.
Yeah. I think I get what you're saying here. So a lot of the favorite moments or the favorite and memorable times that you've had weren't directly tied to the Lego building itself, more so to the people or the moments that you're sharing with the community.
Exactly.
Those times.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. And I couldn't agree more. I think that as you basically just had said, I view the Lego as a vehicle for us to do what we do on stream. It's important as a point of interest during the stream, but more importantly, it's really just that time spending with the people who are in the chat, engaging with you, and whether it be a funny moment that happened, someone did or said something that was really hilarious or funny or turned into a meme on your stream, or just even a conversation that comes up in real time that you maybe didn't expect. So, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Could not agree more.
Mm. There is a couple more Lego related questions, which we'll touch on briefly. What has been the most challenging build that you've done as well?
Ooh, I actually don't know. Probably the Lego Technic GT. Being Technic, I love Technic. I love the complexity of it. I love the engineering behind it, all that stuff. But I have an amazing ability to never be able to quite line up those connecting pins.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you've got like a beam that has multiple pins that needs to be lined up,
yeah,
I can never do it properly. And I like to have a bevy on stream. I'll have, I'm an 18 plus stream, so I'll drink on stream and things like that. And so sometimes you've had a couple of bevies and you're trying to line up a Technic pin, and that can get quite challenging, So that would have to be probably the hardest one. I will say the UCS X-Wing,
mm-hmm.
that mechanism in the back to make the wings open and close, I did have a little bit of trouble with that. But that's definitely frustrating from time to time.
Yeah. Southern asks, what has been your favorite Speed Champion build so far?
Ooh, so Speed Champions have become a kind of almost a new staple on the stream. I never had them before. And the first one I ever built was the R34 GTR. And then some amazing person from my community. I won't call them out, but they gifted me a couple of Speed Champions for me to build on stream, which is super amazing, by the way. And that's definitely a weird challenge. I will say, I know I'm getting off topic, but the whole gifting and support thing is definitely harking back to your earlier question about challenges when you're starting up. Is kind of learning how to deal with the generosity and the support, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it's interesting and difficult. But to get back to the question at hand, I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but I have to say the Ferrari and the Pagani would definitely be probably my two favorites. I think they're equal first, actually. I just love the way they were able to get the shapes and stuff with the fun techniques, for sure.
Yeah. Have you ever ranked all the ones that you've built so far?
So I've only built 4. So it's a relatively new thing for me. I've primarily done Star Wars stuff in the past. So and as a car guy, I always kind of thought that I wouldn't like them due to their small scale and you can't quite get the full detail that you can from a larger model, things like that. But yeah, for me at the moment with the ones that I have, it would be equal first for the Pagani and the Ferrari, the 512M, I think it's called, and then the Countach, the Lamborghini Countach, and then the R34 GTR is my current ranking system. And I'm actually in the middle of building the 1970 Dodge Charger as well. So that listing may or may not change. We'll see how we go once I finish that one.
Excellent. That's great. Since we're on the topic of Lego, let's talk a little bit about how you got into Lego and how it's just a big part of your content. What's the story there?
I guess it goes back to being a kid. It was one of the things that my parents got for both myself and my sister. My dad is a mechanic, as I sort of touched on earlier. And so I grew up, holding the torch for dad and learning about cars and that sort of thing. And so he always thought it was really important to, I guess, build those spatial skills and those construction skills and that creativity from that kind of angle. And so he was always a big, get into Lego and stuff. And I remember my sister doing Technic from like a really young age. And I remember I had like a pirate ship and a few other bits and pieces and stuff like that. So it was just kind of always there as a kid, which is, I was incredibly fortunate to have that opportunity. And then I kind of hit high school, and I think a lot of people will be able to understand what I'm saying. But you hit high school, and I think your priorities change a little bit sometimes. And I found myself, chasing girls, partying, that sort of stuff. I think that's a fairly common story, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
And then after high school, once I, got a job and stuff and I suddenly had disposable income, I was like, hey, there's some really cool Lego sets out here at the moment. I'm going to start, buying them again. So, and I think that was when Star Wars was really starting to kind of like become a mainstay in Lego. So I remember I got like the Boba Fett, the UCS shit, quite early on when I started Lego again. And I think, at least for me, when you look back on Lego with that kind of nostalgia, you're kind of like, oh, how good was that set? And then you actually pull it out of the box and you're like, this is way simpler than I remember it being. It's still awesome, don't get me wrong, but in your head it was way more detailed or way more complicated, whatever. And then you kind of looked at this kind of new evolved Lego, at least I did at the time, and I was like, holy crap, like look how far this has come. And I was just rehooked again,
Yeah. How much time did it take to get back into Lego from those years where you kind of shifted away from it?
So I was probably off it for about 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I saw some of the really cool Star Wars stuff that was coming out, it was very quick to get back in. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I was in my late teens, early 20s, suddenly had a little bit of money. And I was like, I'm just going to buy the shit out of all this Lego.
Yeah.
So I was backlogged very quick once I decided to actually get back into it.
How big's your backlog?
It's actually not that bad at the moment.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, like I touched on before, like, Lego's expensive. And so I do have some stuff, but honestly, I've probably only got about 5 or 6 sets at the moment that are in the backlog.
Yeah.
Some of those are some really cool ones, like the UCS Razor Crest, and I've got the UCS Star Destroyer, things like that. So while there's not many sets, there's some quite large sets. And for me at the minute, it's actually more about the logistics of how the hell do you build a set that big on a screen this size?
Yeah.
And so I'm at the point where I'm thinking of pulling apart my entire streaming setup getting a bigger desk, rejigging all the cameras and stuff like that so I can do the sets justice. So I guess that's why those ones are still in the backlog. So I do find myself grabbing smaller sets like your speed champs and stuff. And they're, rather than getting backlogged, they're skipping the queue and just going straight in because it's very easy to build a small set on a space this size. But yeah.
I'm with you on the setup. My desk isn't the biggest either, and I've built the Titanic. I've built a couple big sets and have definitely ran into a lot of challenges just trying to make that work. And so, like you, I've been thinking about a much bigger desk space, tearing apart the stream setup and rebuilding it to support the love that I have for the bigger sets, because I've done a number of them, even like some that aren't huge, but they're maybe a little tall. Those also, I'm in the middle of building the Hulkbuster rebrick, and that thing is at the point where it's so tall that I've stopped building it on stream because it's just I can't do it justice in terms of like the camera and the setup because it's just so huge.
Yeah, I fully feel that. I was just going to say a little kind of observation on my part, and I'm trying to stop doing this, but do you find yourself not building Lego on stream because you kind of get a bit, oh, this is content that I could be sharing, and it almost feels selfish to build a set just for yourself.
Yeah.
And I fell into that trap for a long time, and I've only just now started taking the time to build Lego sets for myself again. But I was curious, have you ever had that issue?
That's a great question, and this comes up often on this show. And have had a lot of heart-to-hearts with other creators about what that should be for them. And certainly it's different for everyone. But I think ultimately, like you, I have arrived at there has to be something for yourself, whatever that looks like, however you determine that, that's up to you. But my feeling is that if it's Lego, because for some people it's whatever it is they're doing on stream, games, whatever. But with Lego, I think there always needs to be something that you keep for yourself, is large or small as that may be. And I'm not just talking about physical size, but like time spent, right? And so even though I said that the Hulkbuster is something I stopped doing on stream because of not doing it justice, I also was really enjoying that time doing it on my own in a room where I'm not having to deal with dead air like we were talking about earlier, or having conversations, which of course I love. I love doing all those things. I love streaming. But there's something to be said about taking that time and enjoying it. And I think there's some unspoken pressure, right, when you are building on stream, whether it be about getting through the set, which I'm sure is compounded against your unbuilding redeems and bits, but there's a little bit of pressure there to be doing that live in front of people. And for me, I feel like I need to still find other things about Lego that I want to enjoy outside of the view of people who are watching me do it. So I've been working on, when I realized, like using this Hulkbuster as an example, when I realized it was just going to get too large to even build on stream, I instantly said, okay, this is something for me that I'll do when I have some time and it's quiet and I can just use it as like a de-stressor. And so it's not even done yet, but every other night I spend maybe 30-40 minutes on it. And it's, even though it's slow going, the progress is really cool. Like the legs are almost completely done. The torso is almost completely done. It's up. You can't quite see, it's not in frame, but it's been a fun thing for me to just enjoy and not have to like feel like I'm rushing through. Because part of it too was it's so big that if I were to break this down into streams, knowing that I only do Lego once or twice a week at best for only 3 to 4 hours, it would take even longer. And so, yeah, I've had this conversation with many other creators, and it's really about figuring out what that thing is that's just for you. Whether it is the Lego, I treat Gunpla the same way. I've actually built 6, 7 kits of Gunpla. None of it has been on stream because that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing. And I don't want to necessarily do that on stream just yet. I'm sure at some point I will. But right now it's been really nice just getting familiar with the hobby and just taking it in and enjoying it. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. I think it really depends on who you are and what you want from it. But I think it's healthy to take a little bit of like whatever it is that you do all the time on stream and do it, because I know there's that feeling of, oh, this is content, and like you said, it's almost a waste in that I can't share this with other people. But I think there's something to be said about enjoying it yourself and having that for you, and really like taking
100%.
that time. Yeah.
One thing that I've done, because as I said, I'm starting to get better at that. I did fall into that trap for a very long time. And now I'm starting to build little sets here and there. And like yourself, I'm doing Gunpla off stream as well. And I found it's kind of relieved a bit of pressure, I suppose. It's been really nice. And then I find myself using Instagram as almost like a portfolio. So from time to time, anything that I do off stream, there's nothing stopping you just like taking a quick photo of it and posting on Instagram. And, you don't share the whole journey of that build, but people still get to see what you're up to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I'm doing at the minute to try and kind of take away that feeling of, oh, everything is content. You have to be doing it on stream. Otherwise you're wasting it. Yeah, I don't, like yourself, I don't think that's super healthy. I think it is far more healthy to have things to do just for yourself, like you say.
Mm-hmm. But it's so tempting, right? It's so tempting to do things on
It's difficult.
Stream.
Yeah, it's a battle. It's a battle for sure. But I'm slowly getting better at it, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think that happens to a lot of us creators as we get very comfortable doing this all the time in front of people. It becomes second nature. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of weird when we don't do it on stream, honestly. And like you, when I was finding that moment of, hey, maybe I should stop doing this on, like, maybe I should also build Lego off stream. Because there was a while where, like you, I was like, oh, I should really just, here's another set. Like, let's do it live. Let's do it in like with the community. And when I took a step back and decided, okay, no, there's going to be things here and there that I'll do off stream just for me. It'll be great. I remember those first couple times with that mindset, I found it really awkward. That I was like, I would start talking, or I would start thinking out loud, right? About, oh, where'd this piece go? Or, oh, I think I did something wrong. And I said it all out loud, right? Like I was talking to chat, and I actually had to stop myself and enjoy the music I was playing in the background. And I'm like, I don't have to say anything to anyone. No one needs commentary on this set. It's just me in this room building this Lego. So yeah, I do that with games. I do that with a lot of games. I'm a gamer. I used to do the same thing though, where it would be, oh, I should really do a whole playthrough of this game on stream or make a video out of it. And for the people who are in my community now, I'm actually pretty notorious for starting a game on stream and then they may never see it again. And it's not that I haven't finished playing it or that I've stopped playing it. It's because I just want to enjoy it. And I may go through the rest of the game completely off stream. And then someone will ask, hey, did you finish that game? Are you even playing? Today someone said, are you even still playing Mortal Kombat? And I was like, I totally have been. just not on stream. I'll report later on my thoughts of that game because I've been enjoying it, and as much as it's fun to share that, also I just want to play the game too. So it's a tough thing. It's a tough line too, especially when you play those games that have a story. And so people want to know, and people are a little invested with it. I do try to reserve some of those games more for the stream, but even then, I've been playing. I restarted a playthrough of Cyberpunk, and I've just been playing it a bunch off, like off stream. So, yeah,
Yeah, I feel that.
mm-hmm.
And I guess it kind of talks to expand on your point too. It can kind of link it into like boundaries of like time you spend online versus offline and things like that, and finding that healthy balance.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, when I started streaming, I was only streaming once a week. And then I was like, this is not enough. I need to do more. And so I started streaming twice a week. And, I feel like that's probably a good amount for myself. And so that really only equates to like 6, maybe 8 hours a week that I'm actually spending online.
Mm-hmm.
But just from my previous experiences with, previous jobs and things like that, balance is super important to me.
Yeah.
So, as much as I know there's people out there who'd love me to add, a third day, a fourth day, and as much as I'd love to give that to them, the balance is super important. And so I need to find what that balance is. And for me at the moment in my life right now, 2 days is the balance. And if that changes, I'd love to add more. Between being live yourself, and then I'm sure you have the same thing where you want to be in people's chats, you want to be supporting the other creators that you know and love. Mm-hmm. I find myself spending an awful lot of time on Twitch these days. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the reasons why I very rarely get to catch Crossing the Streams live, for example, because it's midday here for me. It's daylight saving, so typically it's more like 11 a.m. when you start. Mm-hmm. But it's a Sunday. That's a family day. It's an important day. So most of the time I'll be, spending time with family or friends. And so I don't always catch this stream, and I know it works the other way as well. I know that I'm on at a really weird time for a lot of Americans and things like that. And you just got to find that balance, I'm not that guy who can stream 4, 5, 6 times a week, because I know myself enough to know that would absolutely burn me out, and I couldn't do it, I'm quite introverted, which kind of doesn't sound right with how chaotic my stream can be at times. But I find that like streaming is really tiring. I'll jump off a 2-hour stream and just be wrecked. I'll jump off a 4-hour stream and just be ready to go straight to bed. It's tough. It's tough, It
is. It definitely is. And I agree with you in that my average stream length is probably right around 3.5 hours. And anything beyond even 3.5 hours, but anything beyond that, I'm definitely wiped out. And I consider myself more of an extrovert than some, but I still, after a stream, I'm definitely wiped out, because I'm trying to engage everyone that's coming in and talking. I'm trying to be entertaining, or at least moderately watchable or listenable, right? And so it takes time. And like you said, that finding that balance between a healthy stream schedule and just a life balance is really tough. I was that person who did stream every day. I was streaming when I found a rhythm with streaming. I was streaming every day, at least 2 to 3 hours a day, and I managed that for like 15 months. Like wow. I don't think I missed a day. And if I did, it was maybe one or two. Like it was very like I was as consistent as one could be at 8 p.m. Pacific. You could count on this channel being live, and in that time was, of course, as you would expect, probably some of the best growth that I had as a streamer. I think a good 1,600 followers came from that. 1,700 followers came from that. Of
consistency is so important.
Yeah, but I definitely over time burnout was a thing. Being able to feel like I was having a good life content balance was hard. And I then proceeded to take like a 9-month break from Twitch completely, almost. Like for the first several months, I wasn't even on Twitch watching people. I just completely disconnected because I needed the time. I went too far into it. As much as I loved the community, I just had to like take the time because I wasn't getting enough sleep or exercise, barely spending enough time with the family. I needed to get away from it. And that's what happens when you spend, like, you kind of go overboard with it, right? And like you said, you're spending a lot of time on Twitch. You're trying to find that balance. Like I've actually been mostly light on Twitch in the last month because life has just gotten very busy between work and family and everything going on at home. Is just I found myself being really busy, or work would wipe me out. Didn't feel like I could put on a good show or stream, and so I've been very light on Twitch itself. So it's definitely a hard thing. How do you find that balance as you're navigating this whole thing?
I think for me, the balance comes from the boundaries. So, I will say, I'm going to go to bed at this time. And, if someone who I really want to watch is on, then, so be it. You can't be at every single one. Mm-hmm. And to borrow a phrase from Pix, who I'm sure most people would know, but he likes to say IRL before URL. And that's something that, I heard him say that and it really resonated with me. And as much as we all love this community and we love spending time here, you can't let it be at the expense of in real life, And so I was lucky enough to learn that lesson in a different way long before I started streaming. So before I worked in the mechanic shop, before all that stuff, I was in the events industry. And I worked at some pretty big venues here in Sydney with some huge events. By 24, I was managing, $30 million worth of events in a year, things like that. And the flip side of that was I was working like 80, 90 hours a week. And I just sort of one day just went, why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. And I learned that time is really, really important. And also knowing me, because I'm very much that guy when I get into a new hobby or a new thing that I'm doing, I will jump into it with both feet. I'll buy all the tools. I'll buy all the tech. I'll do all that stuff. I know what I'm like. I'll jump in, immerse myself, and then I will drop it in a few months' time. And so when I came into streaming, that's why I was very conscious about, I'm going to do it once a week. Mm-hmm. And then slowly ramp it up to twice a week, because I knew if I let it kind of get into my normal pattern, I'd be dropping it really quick. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to do that because I really do enjoy it. It comes down to the boundaries and like knowing yourself, I think. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's about, it's this time, I know such and such is on. I love them, but it's time to go to bed. Or, this day is a non-Twitch day. I'm just going to hang out with the family, whatever. And you just have to do that sometimes. It's important for the long term. And the people who do this, I think, for the most part, understand that. And so when you say, hey, I'm heading out for the night, everyone's really supportive. They'll be like, hey, have a good night's sleep. See you next time. There's no hard feelings. And I think that's part of the brilliant part of this community, to be honest. A lot of the people have been through that burnout, been through, the challenges of it. And so they understand. And that's really awesome to see.
And I completely agree. I think it's setting those boundaries, being clear on what you want to do and want to make time for, and deciding upon what that looks like for you. And certainly it's so important. I see a lot of creators who did just what you described in terms of knowing yourself that you would jump in and go for it, fully. Yeah, my experience reflects that too. So good for you. And I think it's great advice to establish some form of boundaries with the content creation or the streaming, whatever that thing is that you're trying to do. And I definitely see a lot of streamers and viewers fall into that whole, oh wow, I got to be on Twitch a lot, right? There's kind of that FOMO almost, right? People like are afraid of missing something.
It's the perfect word for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
It gets difficult for streamers and viewers to just like they're going to miss something. And so they gotta make that stream, or they gotta make that event that's gonna happen. And honestly, as much as I want to be there and support everyone, it's very unrealistic. It's very it's very tough.
Yeah.
It's very tough.
It is. And what I've found too is when on Friday during the day, typically I'll work like Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Mm-hmm. But on the occasional times when I have a Friday off, I find Friday is a super packed day on Twitch because everyone's on, everyone's doing stuff. And so for a while there, for a good few months, I would have like 7 or 8 streams all open, half of a screen covered with, so all these windows everywhere. And it just looked like a control room in my desk. And I'd have all these streamers up, and you can't engage and watch, consume, whatever you want to call it. You can't split your attention 8 ways. And right. So I kind of just sat there one day and went, I love all these people, but it's not even fair to them to be trying to talk in 8 different chats. I'll say one thing in one chat, and you listen for a response. You might say a few other things. Then you turn that volume down, you jump over to a different stream. And I went, this is silly. I'm better off picking 1 or 2 streams and just being present, being there, and giving that person all of my time. So I find myself now, and I guess it kind of harks back to that boundary thing, but I find myself now, I'll jump into a stream and I'll say, hey, I'm here, I'm lurking, I'm supporting, but I'm not necessarily there, and I'll try and pick a person at random. Of course, everyone has favorites and stuff like that. So there's always a few people that you kind of prioritize, I suppose. But you want to support everyone, but you just can't. And so I find I pick 1 or 2 people, and I'm like, I'm watching this stream. I'm going to be here for as long as I can. I'm going to chat. I'm going to engage. I'm going to have fun. And, I'm really sorry to all these other people who are on right now, but I'm a human being. I can't split my attention this many ways, Yeah. So that's something that I've been trying to do as well from the viewer side of things, is give the creators the respect of my full attention where possible.
Yeah.
That's something that's important to me at the minute. And, I'll still be lurking in all those other streams, helping them by, boosting those numbers and stuff. It's really important to engage.
I really appreciate that. And you pointed something out that I think has a lot of value, in that giving the streamer the attention is like that you feel they deserve. It's important, right? It's one thing to be a number across multiple streams, right? Because you want to show support. I completely get that. I want to support everyone that I can too. But then, like you said, it's not really fair, right? Like, it's not really fair to just have maybe a dozen windows open and you're not really even realistically engaging in any of them because you have 10 tabs open or however many you might have open. And I have found that I've tried to definitely do the same thing as you to be more of a quality viewer if I am in a chat. So if I can give them 10, 15 minutes at the very least of being in their chat, contributing if I can, if I find something to say in terms of the conversation that's happening, or just listening captively to what's going on, it definitely feels a lot better than having multiple tabs open and not even really understanding what's going on in any of the streams. So
exactly. Yeah, for sure. What you said about, even if it's a short period of time, getting in there and engaging for that short period of time, and then, making sure you use that alert command or something. So you go like, hey, I'm actually not here at the minute, but I've had that good engagement, whatever, because the way I look at it is there's been so many times where, especially early on, this is going back to that previous question a little bit about earlier challenges and stuff. I'm sure this happened to you. I'm sure this happens to all these sort of people, but it definitely happened to me, is you get that one person come in when you had that dead air that we were talking about earlier. And that one person comes in and starts that conversation from the viewer end, and it just saves the stream, saves that moment, saves the vibe. And so that's happened to me so many times. I've been so fortunate to have those people. So it's what I mean about that being mindful and being present for those one or two streams. It's about being that person for someone else and trying to, help them out if they're maybe having that dead air issue or whatever, having the respect for that creator,
Absolutely. It's definitely easy. It's easy to forget that, I think, especially when you look at the Lego community, that we all want to be supportive of each other. We all want to be there and show that support. But then a little of that is lost when you have like a dozen tabs open. And honestly, as much as I appreciate the support in that manner, I also appreciate it's okay. Like if you can't be there, it's okay if you can't.
Exactly.
It's really okay. I'm not hurt if you all have to go live your life or even be in a stream that you'd rather be in than
100%.
my own,
It's funny because the last like 3 or 4 weeks, I've actually noticed my average viewer numbers drop off a little bit. And I've been so fortunate for so long that I've basically never experienced a significant downturn in numbers for the whole 15 months or so that I've been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that that's incredibly rare. So I'm incredibly fortunate, incredibly lucky for that.
Mm-hmm.
But even though I've had a drop in average numbers, I've actually had an increase in interaction. That's something that's incredibly important to me because for me, it started with the Lego. We spoke about this earlier. The Lego becomes a tool, becomes a vehicle. And for me now, it's all about the chat, about that interaction, about the people behind the usernames and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have record numbers or anything, but I have incredibly fun, engaging streams lately. To me, that's more important than the numbers, I suppose.
And I share that. I share that view because I've gone through similar things. I'm at a point where my community is smaller, but what I do love is the fact that those that are there want to engage. We have fun. We have great conversations about whatever's going on in our lives or just about whatever's happening in that time. Absolutely. Absolutely. What's your long-term goal for your channel? What are you looking to achieve with your community?
That's a really tough one. I feel like that is something that's constantly evolving, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you had to ask me it when I first started, the goal would have been, you know, get partner, get 1 million followers, get 1 million viewers, you know, make a living from Twitch. I don't know if it's maturity or just kind of understanding more how Twitch works and things like that. The reality is that that's probably not a feasible goal. As I've come to know this community and stuff, for me, it's my long-term goal is just to continue having fun. I'll admit, but when you asked me to come on this stream, I did a little bit of homework, right? And so I wrote down some random thoughts of things that possibly could come up. You know, I jumped on the Spotify and caught as many of the previous podcasts that I could.
Wow.
I admit I didn't get through as many as I was hoping to do.
There's a lot of them now.
You know, as I said, there is an awful lot. There's an awful lot. I got through a few, and obviously I'd caught some of them live and things like that, but certainly not all of them. One of the things that come up a couple of times in previous streams was like success and how you measure it and stuff like that. While it's not a goal per se, but for me, and it's cliche as hell, for me it's about being happy and having fun. And the thing that popped into my head was, you know, people talk about the good old days and, you know, I had so much fun at this period in my life and things like that. I had a little epiphany while I was writing this little homework, these little notes and stuff. And I thought, I'm actually in the good old days right now.
Yeah.
And I don't think many people ever get a chance to realize that. And, you know, I'm probably in the worst financial situation of my entire life, but it's also one of the most happy I've ever been in my entire life. So I don't know. I guess my goal is to continue that happiness for as long as I can. I think that is the goal.
I think that's wonderful. You made me think of The Office in terms of one of the lines that was said. I think maybe it was one of the final episodes of this show where Andy Bernard says, you know, I wish there was a way to know you were in the good old days before you actually left them, right?
And that's exactly what I was talking about. You know, I've heard people talk about that far before The Office and things, but that's probably what most people would reference, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back at certain times in my life. You know, there was a period I've spoken on my stream before when I was a snowboard instructor. And it was one of the best winters of my life, you know, and you don't realize at the time that was the good old days.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I'm looking at now and I look at everything that's happened over the past, you know, 12, 15 months. And I'm like, there's been challenges for sure. There's been unhappy times sprinkled amongst it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, God damn it, we're in the good old days right now.
Yeah. That's such great insight. I definitely agree with you. It's really about being present, right? It's really about not worrying about where you're headed. It's really about enjoying or at least recognizing the things in that moment that are going well or going right. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, of course, making a living from Twitch would be amazing, but it's certainly not something that I'm planning on doing or have, you know, a 5-step plan to or anything like that. That's very much a pie in the sky thing. It would be fantastic, but it's certainly not an active goal. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I'm in the same place as you. Certainly, I think there are many times in my history as a streamer and creator that I really wanted to work towards this or that goal. And looking back at some of those earlier times, as stressful or as hard as it was me streaming daily, right? There's certainly learning more about balance after the fact, but in those moments there were a lot of good times that I could have enjoyed more. because things were going really well in varying ways. But I think I was more concerned about continuing to build the channel and the community, and didn't stop and enjoy it as much as I could have. I mean, I enjoyed it and I loved those moments, but I think I could have actually soaked that in more, and kind of just appreciated it for what it was in that time. So thank you for that point. I think that's a great way to look at it. And that gives me a lot of perspective on where you're at with your content in your community and where you want to be with it. I think it's great. I think it's great to just want to continue to enjoy what you're doing, and continuing to have fun with where you're at.
Yeah. And like I said, I think I've said multiple times throughout the stream now, like, if you're not having fun, like, what is the point?
Yep.
Honestly, that's what it's all about. I think at the end of the day, if more people in the world could say, take a step back, have a laugh, have a bit of fun, the world would be a far nicer place, right?
Couldn't agree more. We talked about where you hope to be. Where do you see it going? Knowing kind of where you're not steering it in a particular way other than to continue to enjoy where you're at. Where do you see it perhaps ending up over the next year?
That's another tough one because, I don't have a crystal ball. And, while I'm a big advocate of doing plans for individual streams, like I said, I don't have a long-term plan for this channel. I've got a rough idea of, I would like to expand some of my content, meaning doing more things like Gunpla and perhaps gaming and stuff like that. When I first tried doing gaming streams, which was really early on, even before I was affiliated, they didn't go particularly well. And I don't just mean like bad numbers, because all the streams were bad numbers at that point. But I just felt like I wasn't super entertaining and engaging when I was playing games. As my chat will tell you, I'm very easily distracted. So if I'm trying to play a game and I'm concentrating on a game, I'll be neglecting chat. Or if I'm really focused on chat, I'll be doing really poorly at the game. I think that gaming wasn't the right thing for me to do back then. But as you do more, you improve and things like that. I think maybe I'm at a point now where I have enough of a fantastic loyal following that I can try other things. They'll come along for the ride, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to branch out, try a few other things. Lego will always still be the core of what I do. Mm-hmm. But I'd love to try some other stuff for sure. One of the other things I'd like to do is trying to branch out into other platforms. So I do have a YouTube, for example, but it's not super populated. Like, I'd like to get that back up and running and try and do some of that stuff. But it's hard because I don't have a 12-month plan, to be honest.
I think very few of us do, to be honest with you. Not many of us do. So, well, I look forward to wherever you go with it. I think that you are on a wonderful trajectory in terms of your community and the quality of the content that you bring. So thank you for what you do on your channel and what you do for your own community, as well as the greater Twitch and Lego Twitch communities. So I wanted to make sure that I said that before we end for the day, because I do appreciate what you do. So
thank you.
Thank you.
That means a lot coming from yourself, honestly. Thanks. Really appreciate that.
So you've done your homework in terms of this show. But I don't always use this question. Yes. I don't always use this question, but if I get the sense that the person has prepared for it, I'm gonna ask. Okay. Was there something that you thought I was going to ask, or something that you wanted to make sure that you had an answer for that we didn't get to today?
I think we've covered most of the stuff that I kind of looked at. Because I know you like to do like the end quote thing. So I kind of had to think about that one, to be honest with you, because when I heard that pop up a few times, I'm like, I've got no idea. I also had to think about like your best moments, because that one's come up a few times as well.
Yeah.
And also the challenges one, like we spoke about some of those. But yeah, I think for the most part, I've done my homework semi-okay, because I don't think anything's caught me completely off guard.
That's good. That's good.
But yeah, I think that's just a side effect of me being nervous about things and trying to, not let you down, not let my collab partner in this particular stream down. I want to do well by everyone.
Well, I feel like you did great, so I appreciate it. Thank you for being so prepared. It means, it means a lot. I certainly don't expect anyone to be too prepared, but absolutely. Amazed Spidey in the chat says, my question, who is your biggest supporter IRL getting into Twitch?
Ooh, that's a great question. And I've got quite a few. So those of you who know the channel know I've got a command called !BAM_time. It's basically a clip of my brother-in-law, my sister, and my nieces. They all put black gloves on, an overhead camera, and they pretended to be me. And they sent me this video, and they're just giggling and laughing the whole time. And I loved it so much that I put it on the stream as a command.
Yeah.
So they are incredible supporters of mine, my immediate family there. Also, my partner, Imzi, she is phenomenal. She comes into every stream. She supports me all the time. She will, most Thursdays, she will cook dinner while I start my stream, and so I can eat either before or just after my stream. Just incredible support. I'm very, very thankful to be able to say I've got, those people plus a couple of other in real life friends who come to most streams and really, really support and help me. So I'm very, very blessed to say I've got probably 8 or 9 people who I know in real life who almost always come in and support and have fun. And, they were instrumental in getting me through those first few months for sure.
I want to thank you for being here. BuildTime, quick shout out to BuildTime, twitch.tv/BuildTime13. Also has a YouTube channel, by the way. Same handle as Twitch as well. Do you have anything coming up in terms of what's going on your channel? Anything in the near future?
We've just sort of completed the majority of my sort of celebration-y stuff, my special event stuff. I'm hoping to do something for some sort of holiday stream, come sort of December-ish, but nothing really planned. What I will say is I'd love to mention the ALRT, so the Awesome Legends Raid Train, which is coming up tomorrow at 8 a.m. Australian time. That is Cooperman, that is Big Pile of Wesley, that is DD Builds, The Lazy Gamer, Led B-Man, and myself. So every Monday we do just a cheeky raid train, and we support each other and have a lot of fun. That's something we do every single week, and that's something that's really, really important to me. But other than that, nothing major happening, but it'll be business as usual.
All right, check out that raid train, which is Mondays or Sundays, depending on where you might be.
Sorry, Sunday
no worries.
From about 1 p.m.
Yeah, I was going to say Sundays for me. I know that's not the case for everyone.
Sorry. I'm terrible at doing time zone conversions, so I always forget.
You're fine. Great. Well, there's only one thing left to do, which you are prepared for, I hope. Final words.
I think.
Final words from BuildTime. We're going to go right into it. So once again, thank you, BuildTime, for being here. You should all check him out. But in the final moments of the episode, this is for you to close out. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. So I've got a quote I don't actually know where it came from, but I heard it many, many years ago, and it's something that's stuck with me. So if anyone knows where it comes from, I'd actually love to know. But the quote is, growing old is mandatory, growing up is optional. For me, that just means, be weird, have fun, do the fun things. And you don't have to be serious about everything all the time. And that really resonates with me.